Coming up on Lyssa and Lyssa.
They said this about you, and everybody sees it. See,
a partner who cares about you and really loves you, they're not going to tell you information that someone said bad about you that they aren't also very upset about and want something done about. Because there's no useful reason to tell someone something that someone else said about them that's bad if there's nothing that can be done about it. If they're going to be like,
well, don't tell them I said this, but obviously they agree with me.
Or something like that, because that only serves to either, one, try to demonstrate that they're right and win an argument against you, which is not what they should be doing. Two, just put you down and make you feel bad. So that's concerning all by itself. But when it's in this context, it could be related to this, where they are trying to make it seem like
that's my friend.
It's like a hint. It's like,
these are my people. They don't have a bond with you. You think you're forming some little cute bond, but like this is what's really going on. They feel the same way I do. And so don't go thinking that they're on your side. They're obviously my friend.
Hey, listen!
hey, welcome back to Lyssa and Lyssa. I'm your host, Alyssa. Moving right along, we just rounded up red flag number 2, which was a cease of polite and thoughtful gestures suddenly. And we're moving right into number 3. Number 3, this one is very interesting. Number 3 is, well, you're about to find out. Okay, we're just going to get right into it. Just sail right into it, okay?
Let's do it.
Moving right along to red flag number 3. If they dissuade you from forming your own private bonds and personal bonds with their friends and family members. I don't know how many people have experienced this one as much. If you've been in a relationship with someone with a character disturbance or personality disorder, or someone who was very abusive emotionally or in any other way, this one was probably more likely. This person is going to be bringing you around their friends and family and all the people that they're closest to. They're definitely wanting you to meet these people, okay? This is going to be in the relationship where you have met these people. They are sharing you in their lives. It's very obvious that you guys are a serious item and that it's a long-term relationship in the works. So they will be totally down with you getting to know their whole family and really happy about all the bonds that you're forming whenever you guys are all together. Obviously, you're going to be around these people a lot because they're around these people a lot. So this could be any of their friends, any roommates they have, any of their family members, and everybody that they spend the most time with. You are then, by association, going to be spending a lot of time with those people. So it's only natural that you would start to form your own bonds. That's human nature. That's the way we socialize. And it's going to happen organically the more time you spend around certain people. In a group of however many people, chances are there's going to be certain people in those circles that you're going to have a natural bond with, that you're going to have a natural pull with. It's going to feel easy. You're going to get to know them very easily and have your own special connection to them, aside from just the connection you have because of your partner. I don't know. Have you ever had a friend and then that friend has a friend, right? And maybe at first you weren't friends with that friend, the friend's friend. But after spending so much time together, you're spending time with your friend. Your friend often has their other friend around them. Before you know it, you're suddenly friends with that other friend, maybe even more than you were with the original friend. And you just form a close bond. And eventually that's not even your friend by relation of your other friend. You're just friends.
It's not making sense to me.
My best friend in the whole world that I've had for over 17 years, I only met her because I was best friends with her friend. And because my friend, the original friend, would bring that person around all the time, I would be invited to things and that person would be there. And eventually we kind of grew apart from the original friend I had. She kind of went on a different path. And I still really enjoyed this person's company that I had met through my friend. So eventually I just started hanging out with her on my own and of my own choice. And we stayed friends, and we've lasted as friends all throughout a very long time now. And we haven't talked to that other friend in years. It happens like that. That's how you meet people, and that can happen. It's very natural. So when someone is dissuading you or trying to make it seem like you shouldn't be friends with people that they're bringing you around, That's a bit concerning because obviously if my friend has a friend and they want to bring them around, it's the best of both worlds for everybody involved if me and that other friend get along. Because if we didn't have a bond, then that would be awkward. Or at the worst of it, it could be that we don't like each other at all. And then that means that you just have to hang out with those two friends separately all the time. And nobody has time for that when you're an adult. Sometimes you need to hang out with everybody together. So it's best case scenario for your partner to get along with the people that you already love. They can just acclimate right into that life of yours. That's what everyone hopes for. So if you're with a partner that seems to not want you to have a connection to these people when they're not around, that's concerning. And I can't think, I've tried really hard to think of a scenario where it might happen and it isn't for a negative reason. And I can't think of one. It could be reasons that aren't so sinister maybe, but it's still going to be reasons that involve controlling or being possessive. So this is going to creep up in that situation. The first sign of this red flag is kind of an overall preoccupation about your time spent with those people in this person's circle where they are not involved in the interaction in any way. If you notice that they seem to get angry when you are forming natural bonds with people that they have bonds with, people that you spend a lot of time around because you're around them, gets concerning. If your goal is a long-term relationship that you're hoping ends in marriage and you guys have discussed that and you know that's where you're going, but they don't like it when you have your own thing going on with somebody in their family, that's a big red flag, okay? Sometimes they might say it very outwardly if they're a very blunt person, or they might passive-aggressively beat around the bush. And they're gonna make comments that indicate their disapproval with you making connections to the people in their lives without them present or without them involved. The way that you'll see this happen is going to come out in their comments. It's usually going to be surrounding things like they might have an expressed distaste for private communication. So anytime you're communicating with somebody in their circle privately, without them in earshot or being able to view the conversation. Time spent with that person where they're not going to be there. Like you're planning to go hang out with that person and they're not involved. It might be expressed towards the exchange of gifts, maybe. If one of their family members or friends buys you a gift that they didn't know about, or you are doing something nice for one of their friends' birthdays or their friends' girlfriend's birthdays or their friends, whoever, birthday, or their brother or sister's graduation, and you buy a gift for them and try to set up an event to celebrate them. They might express feelings of distaste for that.
Why are you doing that? You don't need to do that. Well, you don't even do that for me.
Type thing. They might be really against you exchanging private information, like exchanging phone numbers or social media accounts, where they don't want you to be following that person. They might not like you doing nice things for them, favors, acts of service, or vice versa. They might not want anybody in their life doing anything nice directly just for you that doesn't involve them. So that's the way this will show up in the subtle forms in the beginning. That's how it starts. And sometimes don't miss it when it's joking. If somebody keeps making a joke about something that's like really not that funny and they just keep making that joke, sometimes they're not joking. So pick up on that. They might make a lot of jokes like,
oh, you and so-and-so are getting pretty close, huh? Maybe you'd want to date them.
I'm not even talking about instances where someone is jealous, where like it's actually somebody that you, like it's someone of the gender that you date. It would be maybe the gender that you don't date, like someone who would be just only a platonic person. These people I'm talking about, they are dissuading you from having platonic friendships and bonds with those people, even. Next step of this behavior, what it might look like, of this red flag, it might look like them talking badly or negatively a lot about their friend that you're getting close to, their family member that you're getting close to. They're going to start kind of like inserting this a lot. They also might do this by sowing doubt into you about how much that person likes you. So they might randomly tell you that this person said something that they know will probably irritate you. Like it might be something that people often misperceive about you that they know bothers you, or it might be something that has to do with something you're insecure about, or it might sometimes be something that they have been saying about you, your partner, that you disagree with, that you guys have kind of had a conflict about, and you've had a differing of opinions, and they might make a point to say that this person also confirmed that about you, and they'll be like,
I didn't even tell them. They said this about you, and everybody sees it. See,
a partner who cares about you and really loves you, they're not going to tell you information that someone said bad about you that they aren't also very upset about and want something done about. Because there's no useful reason to tell someone something that someone else said about them that's bad if there's nothing that can be done about it. If they're going to be like,
well, don't tell them I said this, but obviously they agree with me.
Or something like that, because that only serves to either, one, further their thought process and try to point out that they're right, demonstrate that they're right, and win an argument against you, which is not what they should be doing. Or two, just put you down and make you feel bad, kind of like knock you down a bit. So that's concerning all by itself. But when it's in this context, it could be related to this, where they are trying to make it seem like,
that's my friend.
it's like a hint. It's like,
these are my people. They don't have a bond with you. You think you're forming some little cute bond, but like, this is what's really going on. They feel the same way I do. And so don't go thinking that they're on your side. They're obviously my friend, not yours.
it's a very unfair tactic. It has a bit of a bullying element to it. It's not going to feel good when you hear it, and you'll feel that there's something wrong with that. It can also just be that they're talking negatively about this person all the time in front of you to kind of try to dissuade you away from wanting to even be friends with them. Now, this goes hand in hand with that. Please believe that if they are doing this behind their loved one's back, behind their friend's back, behind their friend's partner's back, and they're doing that in front of you, talking badly about them, please believe that they are also doing the very same thing, likely, to that person or other people about you behind your back. Because why wouldn't they? If someone shows that that's something that they do, I do get that there's a difference between talking to your partner because you and your partner share a lot of things, and that's just where you get things off your chest. They just kind of do this about like all people, and you guys share, it's equal, and it's not directed towards you or like telling you all about how people think about you, or it's not about ragging on the same person all the time and like trying to get you to not like them. If it's not that, that's a different thing if you're just venting. But if they're just telling you things about this person constantly, trying to dissuade you from being friends with them, don't be disillusioned for even a second to think that they're not doing the exact same thing about you behind your back to that person or other people, because they probably are. They will sometimes, if they're doing this, they sometimes will be talking behind your back about maybe hinting at your shortcomings, some things that you do wrong, maybe hinting that you are inconsiderate in certain ways, blaming things on you, sowing seeds of doubt about you, maybe even telling that person things you said about them that you didn't say. Maybe you did say, but they're telling them when you maybe said it, shared it in confidence, and it was something that's supposed to be only between you and your partner, and they might take it out of context and go tell that person. So also they can be really extremely sneaky about this, and there's a certain type of person that often engages in this behavior that is known as kind of like the good guy. But if you really take a step back and examine what they say often about people or how they actually are behaving, they're not actually so great in the way that they talk about and treat people. But they come off that way for a while until you kind of recognize this. And the way that they go about this is they will often only directly say nice things about people. They'll say how much they love them. They'll say how great they are, how they're such a great guy, great woman, whatever. Immediately followed up by some very implicative statements that aren't so direct, that kind of hint at that's maybe not actually how they really are. And, except for this little thing, they kind of slide it in there. And sometimes if they're really going down this path, they sometimes will even slide in at the end a little disclaimer where they're just like,
I don't talk about people. I don't like to talk about people behind their back.
They'll basically describe exactly what they're doing right there in that moment and saying that they don't do that, but they'll be saying what they actually are exactly doing right now. So, for example, they might say,
oh, I love Patricia. She's so sweet. She's an amazing person. I love having her around. I love her to death. That daughter of hers, whew. I guess if she just wants her to keep following in her mother's footsteps, and, never needs to be a wife, just always a baby mama. You know what I'm saying?
that's cool for them. I mean, I don't like to gossip about people, so I mean, just.
Patricia, I love her. She's a great mother. Let's change the subject. It's not right to talk about people, and I don't do that.
Stop the cap.
And they just did it. So the first part was so direct, you know? So what you'll take away from that conversation a lot of times, or someone who's maybe not paying a lot of attention, they just remember consciously that they said Patricia was great. She's a great mom. They said great things about her. They love her. This person likes Patricia a lot. But subconsciously, what was implied and what will be in that person's head as well, even if they don't consciously acknowledge it at the moment. Subconsciously, a message was sent about Patricia, that Patricia may not be disciplining her daughter very well and may not be really keeping a good handle on her. Maybe she's slacking as a mom. Maybe she's not doing her job as a mom and she could be doing a lot better. And that thought, without being directly communicated, can be taken away from that conversation and now in that person's mind about Patricia. And so then if behaviors are seen where maybe her child is being a little out of line, which all children get sometimes, that person who's had that implied to them might witness that and go, ooh, yep, I've heard that Patricia doesn't discipline her daughter very well. Oh, I see what they're talking about now. And there goes the rumor mill. There goes that thought. There goes that thought being sewn into the mix of now more people who maybe don't even know the situation very well thinking this about Patricia. Whereas this person who's close with her kind of betrayed her a bit by sowing that seed into other people's minds about her. And that's just a really crappy thing to do. So there's certain type of people, this behavior is very prevalent with them. They do this a lot. And so everybody around them thinks like, this person's so kind and like so nice and loves his friends and loves her friends and da-da-da-da. But they don't really. What if you look at a little bit below the surface and what they imply all the time, they're actually very judgmental of everyone around them. They're actually very negative. They have a lot of very negative thoughts about a lot of the people around them. And they're looking down upon a lot of people. I think that they're maybe like a lot better than a lot of people around them. It shows, it's evident when you read between the lines and think about what they were hinting at. It's not just what they said directly, it's what they're hinting at when this is happening. This is a tactic that also goes hand in hand with that. Okay, so they also might be doing this about you. So if they're telling you these things about somebody in their lives, they are probably going to that person and doing the same thing about you in the same type of way, where everyone will be like,
oh, he loves you so much. Oh, she loves you so much. She always talks so great about you.
But they also had many messages implied to them about how you're not so great and how you're maybe not so cool to be around, maybe not so trustworthy, maybe not so giving, whatever they decided to imply about you. And those messages are being transmitted as well about you. And this is an effort to keep people away from you, keep people from getting too close to you and wanting to form an actual bond with you. I'll give you a couple of examples from my situation. It started out with friends, girlfriends. That's where I noticed it at first. He didn't mind if I was friends with them when they were around. Like I could be around them all I wanted, and like he loved it that we were getting along. But while he was involved and while he could monitor that, I guess, because the moment we shared our phone numbers, it was like,
why would you do that?
It was clearly not something that he liked. Okay, he never said why. And yes, he was a jealous person, so he was jealous about other men in a very ridiculous way.
Good day, young lady.
Hello, sir. What's wrong?
Why don't you ask, sir?
Well, he's 92 years old, so...
But this wasn't even that. This was with women.
Why?
So that didn't make sense. It didn't cover that realm. Around about a year when we moved in with each other, one of his siblings and I got along perfectly. When we first moved in together, we got along great. We had a lot of really bonding moments like that. I mean, at least I felt that we did. And I felt like they were very genuine and very real. And we were getting very close. And I don't feel bonds with people a lot nowadays in my older adult years. After everything that I kind of went through, I pulled away from people. And I had a period of time where I didn't realize I was self-isolating. So I didn't realize that I was disqualifying people from being my friends, like really rigidly. And early on, when I would meet people, I would just automatically be like,
it's not going to be my friend.
I didn't even know I was doing it, but I realized it after a while. But this person, I didn't have to try. It just happened. I can count on one hand how many times in my life that's happened, where I just feel completely like I don't even have to facilitate a bond. I'm not even trying for one. It's just here. I feel it. You're my people. I know you are. And I don't even get to choose because like, it chose me. I didn't even try. And that doesn't happen a lot. But that happened with her. And I was so happy about it. I was so happy. I loved it. I thought this is my dream come true. Like my boyfriend who I love. I'm moving in with him. His family is wonderful. They treat me nicely. They accept me. They respect me. They don't judge me. They're not rude to me. It felt like in the beginning that they wanted me around, and I just felt so accepted, and I loved it. And so she was one, though, that I hit it off with the most. And I remember he would see her name in my phone, and he would just be like,
"Why are you texting her? Why are you texting my sister?"
And I was like,
First of all, she texted me, and why not? Like, you do understand we're roommates now, right? Like, she's my roommate. And I'm your girlfriend, and we're moving forward in our relationship. Like, I just moved in with you. Why wouldn't I have your sister's phone number? What do you mean? Why wouldn't I be texting your sister?
So it was really weird. Then there were some other incidents I talked about in my betrayal podcast. The one, I think it was in episode 1. Yeah, the end of episode 1, I talk about this incident. This was the incident that severed that bond. It's called Betrayed But Not Broken. First episode. It's actually probably right up here. You can click on it if you want to check that out. It's at the very end of the episode. He was very cruel in sewing in some insecurity in me that she was not my friend. He was very vicious in telling me that when he saw that bond was growing naturally and getting pretty close. So that ended that. I didn't trust it anymore, and I was afraid. So then we didn't continue a bond. And for more info, you can watch that. But before that happened, okay, the first thing he tried to do to sever our bond was, in the beginning of moving in, he would buy me wine. He would bring me wine home sometimes, and it was so sweet. And I loved it, and I was appreciative of it, and I was on cloud 9. I loved it. I said, thank you, thank you, thank you, a million times. Gave him all the love. And his sister also liked wine, and she was around sometimes, and I offered her some of my wine. If she would be around me and we were hanging out or like we were talking and I was having a glass of wine, I would offer some to her and she would take it. So then there were a few times where she asked,
"Can I get some of your wine? I'm going to buy some more."
And I, of course, was like,
"Yeah, sure. Please, have some."
I told her it's not even a problem. And a few times my ex would see her getting some and he would be like, He was always so cognizant of everything that he paid for. Anything that he bought, it was like the treasure of the century. So if he saw her pouring wine from the bottle he bought, be sure he was going to say something. And he would always make like a joke. Which I'm sure, they were familiar with at that time in their lives. He'd probably done it all their lives, and they probably just haven't learned to like let it go. But I know what's underlying it. And I took the brunt of what was underlying it. So anyways, he would say something like,
"Oh, helping yourself to some wine, hey?"
And then she would just like laugh and she'd be like,
"Oh, did you buy this?"
And then da-da-da. And that was it. He would think in his mind that those types of comments, because he would talk to me later. I would witness all of this. He would talk to me later and tell me numerous times, like with different scenarios. I would be like,
"Have you told her how you feel?"
about something that he's complaining about. And he would be like,
"I've told her a million times."
And I would be like,
Well, no. Have you told her very specifically how you actually feel about it? Not passive-aggressively.
And he would be like,
"It's obvious. She knows."
and I would be like,
It's not. It's absolutely not. And this is the problem.
but I don't think he realized sometimes how passive-aggressive he was. And he would just view that in his mind as he's been telling someone over and over, but he really wasn't. So that's how that can happen. Watch out for that. After a while, he kept telling me when she was not there. He would be like,
"You need to stop sharing your wine with her because that's for you. I buy that for you. So she's never going to buy any to replenish it. So don't share it with her."
and I would just be like,
Like, okay, well, you bought it for me, right?
and he would be like,
Like, "Yes, I bought it for you."
and I'm like,
Like, and I appreciate it so much, and I hear what you're saying. But here's my problem. One, if your sister asks me for some wine, and it's my bottle of wine that you've bought for me, and I don't mind sharing a glass out of it, I don't see what the problem is. I'm not coming to you and complaining and saying, all my wine is gone, I need more. I'm not asking you to buy me any wine. It was a gift. You bring it home for me, and I love it, and then I utilize it how I want to. That makes me the happiest, right? So, I mean, I got so much enjoyment out of it, so I don't see what the problem is here. I drank most of it. I gave your sister a small glass. And she doesn't just like come and take the whole bottle or anything like that. She doesn't do that. She's not overdoing it.
And he was like,
I don't have all the money in the world to be buying all your wine like that, and then for her to drink it, she's never going to reciprocate. She's never going to buy any. That's what she always does.
I was just like,
I didn't ask her to reciprocate. She offered to, and if she does, then she does. But if she doesn't, I don't give and share because I'm waiting for it to be reciprocated. I gave it to her because I wanted to share it with her, and she wanted some.
and he's like,
Well, yeah, of course you can just give it away because you don't pay for it.
and I was like,
Look, here's the thing. If you don't want to buy me wine, then don't buy me wine. If you can't afford it, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. I'm not asking you to. But don't ask me to say no to your sister. That's just, I'm not going to do that. And if you would prefer that she doesn't ask me for wine, that's up to you. That's like between the two of you. You can go to your sister who you've known your whole life, and you can have that uncomfortable conversation.
so he was like,
All right, I'm not buying the wine anymore then.
the rest of the time I knew him, the rest of the time I would live there, he never once bought another bottle of wine. I think one time he bought one on my birthday or something. Other than that, he stuck to that. He never bought wine again. He bought me champagne later on down the line, but he never, in that moment, and from those months on, he was not having it. And it came down to just realizing that he was just upset about anything that facilitated a bond between me and anybody in his family. There was one time that I missed his mom's birthday one year. I had, I think, a show, like an art show. They were all going out to eat, and I didn't get to come. So I had messaged her, and I said,
I'm so sorry I missed your birthday. I would like to take you out to lunch. So do you have this day free?
and she had said yes. She had agreed to it. And then I had told my boyfriend later. I thought he would be ecstatic. No, he wasn't. He was
Like, why would you do that? Why would you do that without telling me?
I'm like, I don't get it. It's just like, I don't know why you're mad. And he was just like,
You never listen. Why would you do that? You never know how to listen.
I'm like, okay.
Okay.
And I have no idea what he's upset about. It was so hard for me to understand that because I thought that would be something like he would love. He would be like,
Wow, I have a partner that cares about my family, wants to be kind to them, and wants to get to know them. Like,
that I do that because I love him. I don't see how he doesn't connect that. So if someone acts like this, there's something not connecting, because that is why I was doing it. And that is why most people would do it. And that is how most people would take it. They would appreciate that you even want to do that you even make that effort and think the world of you. What's better than that? Some people don't do that. Some partners don't give a crap to get to know your family. So that's crazy. That conversation ended with me not getting an answer, as I typically didn't get answers for most things. Not much longer after that, I got an email, again from his mom, of her stating that she had something come up for that day and that she would have to cancel having lunch, and she didn't offer a alternate day at all. And so I thought that was interesting. So I emailed her back and I said, well, okay, no problem. Let me know if another day comes up that you're available, and I'll make sure I'm available, and we can go whatever day is good for you. Just let me know if you want to reschedule it. And she just said, okay. And she never rescheduled it. So, and I moved out like not too long after that. And I don't have proof or anything like that, but I have a strong feeling that that was him intervening in that. Okay, so I'll tell you why this is a red flag now. This is a red flag because this demonstrates a very controlling person. It demonstrates a manipulative person. It demonstrates somebody who has to have control over everything that's going on. They think they're the puppeteer of everybody, that everybody's below them. They are the superior, all-knowing, smarter master of everything. And they get angry because if the people that they're trying to puppeteer are getting together and figuring things out without them around, they can't control that narrative. So this is utilized because when they want to use their common tactics that they're likely to employ later, and he did, when they like to use their tactics of smear campaigning, where they're talking behind your back and changing the reputation of you and the outlook of the way people view you.
around you. They can't do that if you have your own bonds with people. They can't do that if you're able to go in the background and have these bonds where people can see you for who you really are and know you on a different level, to where when he says these things, they're going to be like,
No, that doesn't sound like her.
he also doesn't want them to like you enough to where they would even stand up for you like that. So that's what happened with me. You know, when he would make all his lies in the end that he made up about me, planted the seed with everybody in the house to where, and he had said enough to upset them or make them wary about me enough times to where they thought maybe I said something that I didn't say, or I did something that it wasn't my fault, or he exaggerated something or let them believe something, just lots of things. He would just play it up to make me look bad and pit us apart. At that point, they didn't have enough of a bond with me and a care for me to do anything about it. So they just let it be. They were just like, that's their business. I'm not going to do anything about it. Like, you know, she'll be happier probably if she just leaves. One of the house members probably was more active in joining in with strongly disliking me based on what he had said behind my back and based on the interactions that then tended to happen, because this person was sabotaging me all the time, subtly. And it was really clear there was a silent, secret disrespect and devaluing of me. And so it was respect on a surface level when you see her, but she's inferior. She's not intelligent. She doesn't know what she's talking about. She said this about you. She doesn't have her life together. It was this narrative. And so how do you think that's going to make people think about me? And how's that going to make people treat me? They might treat me nice to my face, but they don't have respect for me. And they're not going to come to my aid and stand up for me and truly love me the way that I loved them, the way that I thought they were my real family, the way I thought that they had a bond with me that they didn't have. And yeah, that's why they do it. So this is probably one that I would say, if you see this red flag and it's not, you don't find some other crazy reason why it's happening, right away, address it right away. You want to get out. You want to get out as soon as possible, because that element of the breakup and the relationship and everything, that element of it is heart crushing. That's one of the hardest things that I think back on even to today. It kills me that he got away with saying whatever he said about me, and whether they believed it or not, they were all cool to just stop talking to me. It's not like they've necessarily blocked me out, but he, without coming right out and saying it, tried to slowly keep me from coming over anymore, and kind of like hinted that nobody wanted me there. These people I loved. I loved them so much. I never saw this coming. See, it's still very emotional for me. So this, I'm not going to go deeply into that, but basically it's painful, and this was how it started. So that's why it's on this list. If you see this, be very concerned and make sure that it's not just a sign of control and manipulation and preparing for something really cruel that they could do to you later on. Another thing these type of people might do is they often engage in scapegoating. My ex always had a scapegoat all the time, no matter, everywhere. So in every part of his life. So he constantly had a scapegoat at work. Throughout my entire time with him, from the moment I met him until the time when we broke up, he had multiple different scapegoats all throughout that time at his job. There was one when I met him, and then that person moved on and like quit or whatever happened. And then there was immediately another one. Within weeks, there was somebody else that was causing all this turmoil for him. That was always the problem, that is doing this and that and this and that every day almost, have something to say about that person. And then it would stay that person until that person was gone. And then it would be another person, like clockwork. I can think of I can think of 5 people that it happened in succession with at his job throughout the time we were together. And there was never a period of time where there wasn't somebody that's that same person until there was the new person. And if there was a period of time, it was just a few weeks until he developed reason enough to have his new scapegoat. And I've actually said this to him, and he just like,
No.
but like, it's so obvious. And if anybody who knows him and is around him daily, like his siblings, if I were to present this information
And say, don't you notice this pattern?
I mean, they can't deny that he did this. Maybe they wouldn't call it what I'm calling it. But they had to hear the stories too. Every day he came home talking about the same person. He would be so fixated on this person and all the things that they do wrong and how they're just making his job complete hell. He did the same thing in his personal life. He had one at his previous residence. He had somebody that he had his issues with. And then when we moved in together, when we first moved in together, we were both very like on a kind of like on a high of like happiness. It was like a re-honeymoon stage. It's kind of started over again, and we were very happy and in a good place. So it wasn't me. So at that time, he had to have a different scapegoat, and at first it was his siblings. And he had something to say about his siblings constantly. He was always telling me that his siblings don't know how to take care of themselves, and that he has to do everything, and that they don't know how to be adults, and they don't take care of anything. They don't do any of the responsibilities of the house. Telling me like, watch out, like don't do things for them. Don't let them have you take care of everything for them, because they're going to just take advantage of that, and just, I know how they are. Don't do that. I do my best not to just follow what someone else says about another person, no matter who they are. It doesn't matter. It could be in my family, it could be my best friend, it doesn't matter. I try to observe my own experience of someone and then form my own opinions about it based on that. So he would tell me these things and say a lot of these things about his siblings, and I would take what I witnessed and I would have my own opinions. And sometimes when he would say certain things that I felt were coming from a biased lens, I would just try to open his mind a little bit and kind of push back and say, well, that's not what I'm seeing. And I think that you're pretty decent, and they really care about other people, and I see things that they do, and I think it's a little bit skewed, your viewpoint, and maybe you're not giving them enough credit. And he absolutely hated this, and I think that is where I became more of the enemy, was in my moments of standing up for them. He complained about both of his siblings pretty regularly, but as time went on, and I started to form bonds with one sibling in particular, it became less about the other sibling, and he more so targeted the sibling I was getting the closest with more often. He started talking bad about this person constantly. And he would talk about how she doesn't work as much as he does, and she doesn't know how to be an adult, and all the stuff I just said. It was like constantly on a loop. And sometimes, because we were getting close, this sibling would ask me sometimes to borrow things like that I had, and I was more than happy to share with her, let her borrow things of mine. And sometimes, even if she was like in a hurry, she would ask me to do something for her, something simple, like switch her clothes over or something like that. And I was more than happy to do so, since I was home anyway. I would be at home. She had something to do. She would ask me to take care of something for her, and I would say yes. My ex, when he would witness this or overhear her ask me something, that bothered him, and he started to tell me,
Stop doing things for her. She shouldn't be asking you to do things for her. She needs to stop. She's going to take advantage of you. She's not going to reciprocate. Stop sharing things with her, because she's never going to pay it back to you. She's never going to buy the things she says she's going to replenish. She doesn't do it. She's notorious for this.
That's what he would say all the time. It was just constant. And he started to get mad at me and pull away or go cold on me, give me the silent treatment if I did do things for her. It started to be an issue in our relationship. And he would tell me,
You're not listening. You don't listen to me. You're not getting it. You need to stop.
and sometimes it would be also,
You should be doing more for me, not for my sibling.
and stuff like that. And it was just lame, because the two things had nothing to do with each other. Like, I did a ton for him, and he never acknowledged it. One night, this all came to a head because he was getting extremely frustrated. It was all like just rising. His scapegoating of this sibling of his. And one of his parents was over, and obviously his parent, their parent, same parent. And he was talking in the garage with them, and the siblings came up, and he was kind of voicing some of these complaints he has about this sibling, and just
talking about all the things. And he kind of brought me into it and was like,
she's been asking her to do this for her, and
just laughing about it, how ridiculous it is. I felt so uncomfortable, and I obviously didn't want to really engage in that. And his parent was asking me directly,
Well, do you have this problem with this sibling? Do you feel like you don't want to do those things, or do you have issues with it?
and I said,
I really don't.
and my partner did not like that at all. I said,
I don't really have necessarily an issue with it.
I was honest. I said,
The issue I have with it and what's making me not want it to happen anymore is his issue with it, because it causes problems between me and him because he keeps getting upset about it. He gets mad every time that I do anything involving this sibling, and that's what I'm worried about causing a problem with.
and the conclusion that was reached, or was coming to be reached, was that the parent was kind of just saying like,
She's an adult. Let her make that decision. I don't know why it involves you.
well, he's saying this to his son. And it's like, yeah, I agree. Like, I totally agreed with that. And then he's saying that he should probably talk to the sibling about these concerns that he has and address them head on. Perfect. Totally agree with that advice. And I said very blatantly in front of his parent, right to him, I said,
Whatever you do, please do not bring me into it. Don't bring this up with her and tell her that I don't want her to ask me things, and don't make it about me, because I never said that and I don't want to be put in that light. I feel very uncomfortable if you do that. Please do not talk to her about that, because I don't feel that way.
he heard it. He acknowledged the message. Well, in the middle of this conversation, that sibling came home from work, and he had been kind of firing himself up all the while and kind of getting himself all upset. And then sibling comes home, right? And she's her bubbly self. She's just gotten off work and she's just sitting down, kind of trying to talk for a minute before she goes inside. And she notices his mood, and she's kind of like,
What's wrong? Is something wrong with you?
and then he can't contain it anymore, and he fires back at her and is like,
yeah, something's effing wrong.
cussing, and he gets really abrupt with her and just all of a sudden says something about me. He said something to the effect of,
She doesn't want you to ask her to do these things either. You need to stop.
or whatever it is. He just totally threw me under the bus in front of his parent and his sibling. And she literally was like,
You don't have to be such an a-hole.
and she started to kind of almost cry, and she left very upset and went upstairs. She basically ran out of the garage very mad and very insulted and very hurt. Nightmare. It was a nightmare. And then his parent that was sitting right there turned to him and said,
I've never heard you talk that way to your sibling before. I don't know what's come over you. I don't know what's up with you, man. That was not right. I'm really disappointed in what I just saw happen right here. That was very disappointing.
and now, for this person, I don't think he expected quite that reaction. And he gathered himself and he went upstairs and he went and talked to his sibling, and they worked it out. What I didn't know is that marked the moment when everything shifted in the house. In that moment, he made up with his sibling. He chose a new scapegoat, and he made that entire situation my fault in his mind. And I suddenly became the scapegoat and the enemy and the problem, because I didn't back him up and I wasn't listening to him, and he made sure that I suffered the consequences after that. And I became pretty much the target of all of his frustrations, and always the enemy from that point on, pretty much most of the time. Sometimes he would come home and he wouldn't even come near me, say hello to me. But if his sibling was in the room, he would go right to his sibling and he would start giving that person hugs and doing little joking around with that person. And even to a point where it was odd and uncomfortable, to where she would say things sometimes. She would just be like,
Come on, man. Why don't you say hi to your girlfriend?
it's just so ridiculous. I don't know if it was done to make me feel bad.
Oh, you're not hugging me, you're hugging your sibling.
I don't know what it was, but it was just so weird. And he did it a lot.
And both of his siblings called it out a couple of times. It was just like,
You're not going to say hi?
and where it was like a special occasion and he would be hugging his sibling and I would just be over standing alone and just completely ignoring me. And she would be like,
You need to go hug her. And she can use some of those hugs.
it was so obvious. It was so felt by everyone, but never directly. They didn't take all of those little things and put them all together and realize it in the end, but it was recognized. And so it kind of just stayed like that from that point on. There you have it. Number 3, wrapped up. When they dissuade you from forming your own private, personal bonds with people in their family or any of their loved ones, they're just very against it. And we know now, at first can look just like a very confusing possessiveness or jealousy. But what it really is it's controlling, manipulative tactic, and it is used as a tool in their back pocket for in the future when they ever may need to separate you away and isolate you and be able to control you and control the narrative. Be on the lookout for this behavior. I can't think of many ways that it could be not a red flag. This one's pretty much straightforward. I hope you enjoyed it. Please come back for tomorrow for our red flag number 4. It's going to be a good one. All right. This one's very juicy. Very juicy. Okay, bye.